for a total of 10 years. That is justice. Like, what? Like, there's so many people who have actually not received justice. How can you say she hasn't received justice when she has? Like, it's just insane. But, you know, people can believe what they want. But if you go read these comments, it's like, it just was so good to see, like, oh my God, yes, I've been seeing this crazy group of people going around. I'm like, oh, you know those people too? Yeah, they're real crazy. Yeah, it's really, like, I'm not gonna read all the comments because it would take me all day, but I was surprised because usually I see a video like this and then I see the crazy people from the Gypverse coming over here and coming into their comments and like destroying them. Wait, Bree, you have a biased opinion. Why, you don't think you have a biased opinion? Why do I have a biased opinion, but you don't? Please answer that. Like, why do I have one, but you don't? What's the difference? I started talking about this before I knew Gypsy, before I was friends with Gypsy.
So Gypsy is gonna, that New Year's video, the clip from this new podcast of hers, the goal is for her to release more episodes, right?
Yeah.
So my understanding over the last few weeks is, and I've said this before, you know, people believe two different things. People believe either Gypsy was abused by her mother or not abused. So here's a thought. You know, she's coming out with this podcast. I think it could be a good opportunity. And I would say maybe she should be like, okay, I'm aware that there's a lot of people out there who don't believe my lived experience. To simplify things, here's everything that factually happened with receipts.
She's been doing that. Wait, did you not see what her podcast said? She said this isn't a year of proving anything. This is a year of whatever the rest said, because she's been doing that. She's been doing nothing but, Perez, the first year that I was on TikTok, I quite literally, every video I made, I showed receipts from medical records. I had access to all of that. So
She should do it. She should do it herself.
Nobody, when she does it, nobody cares. She posted a video about her, about the microdeletion, and people didn't, I mean, nobody ever listens to her. I mean, you gotta think how many times has she told her story? Why does she have to tell it again so people can pick it apart and say she said it differently again? That's what they do. Like, what I don't get is like,
I feel like, because like for me, for example, like some people have come to this later than others, right? So there's like a lot that I didn't know, and I feel like, I don't know, if not, or not. I don't know. You're right.
I feel like that's what she's been doing for the last 11 years of her life, between documentaries.
Right, like, you know, there's also the argument that like she could probably say everything and people still won't believe her. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people do believe her. It's just a small community of people that you happen to, like, that's such a small community compared to how many people are in the world. It really, I mean, on her other platforms, she's doing great. She doesn't get many people. Okay, so Gypsy was put in a wheelchair when she didn't need one. That's abuse. Gypsy's head was shaved when it didn't need to be. That's abuse. Gypsy was put on a feeding tube and it was never taken out of her. But when she got to prison, it was removed and she was fine. She could eat perfectly fine. That is abuse. The fact that she could not have a boyfriend when she was in her 20s, that should show you. I mean, no person should feel like they can't have a. I mean, why wouldn't she?
But like the medical things, it would not have happened if the doctors didn't believe they were necessary.
Wrong. What do you mean? Like, that would mean that medical malpractice doesn't exist. That would mean that Munchausen by proxy isn't a thing. That would mean that medical child abuse doesn't happen. That would mean that doctors don't make mistakes. That would mean that caregivers aren't freaking calculated and aren't deceptive, which is what equals people who have Munchausen by proxy. That would mean that every single person who's ever gone through this abuse basically hasn't.
So why? Here's a thought that had not occurred to me before then. Why has she not like considered or actually gone after these doctors and
statute of limitations?
Feeling Brie.
Statute of limitations. And when it comes to Missouri, especially Louisiana, which is where a lot of the bigger surgeries were done, man, Louisiana, you have like 1 year after you find out, because you know they do that thing where like if the time can start from when you find out that these things weren't necessary or whatever. Well, Louisiana, the statute of limitations is it's such a short period of time, and you have to figure she had a case to also fight. But this is the bigger thing, and I hope that a lot of people I find can't comprehend this, but not because they aren't smart. I think it's because sometimes, you know, when you have this idea and this thought and this opinion in your mind, you don't want to shift from that. And I'm hoping, since you aren't really all the way there, that maybe you can understand this. Okay, so here's the thing. It would be so hard to win, even if they had time to file the lawsuit, and this is why. You have to prove, in a lot of cases, that these doctors intentionally, they were intentionally doing this. Not that they were just deceived, but they were intentionally doing this. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand that Munchausen by proxy is not just the fabrication or the exaggeration, it's also the inducing of symptoms. So there are things that technically were medically necessary, but only because her mother made it medically necessary. Does that make sense? Like starving her, not giving her enough food so that way she loses all this weight and she needs a feeding tube. Or for example, when she's putting tons and tons of Orajel in her mouth and eventually they can't figure out what is causing, and it says that in the records, there's no root. They don't even know why. They just know that she's pooling, that there's drool pooling at the bottom of her mouth, nowhere else, just at the bottom, and they can't even find what's causing it, but they take out her salivary glands. So that would mean that it, to the doctors, it's medically necessary, or with if she's starving her and not feeding her, which she should be feeding her, maybe it was at that time medically necessary, but because of the abuse.
Explain the Orajel thing. What was that about?
So her mouth for the excessive saliva.
Orajel is for pain.
Teeth pain.
Yeah, but if you put, you know how like you ever put Orajel in your mouth? It can make your mouth water from numbing it, you know. Especially if you put like, imagine like a whole tube at the bottom of your mouth, you're gonna be drooling.
So what was the purpose of the mother doing it?
Because she kept on saying she was drooling a lot. So that's what eventually she was getting Botox treatments in her salivary glands. And then eventually she got them removed, which is an incredibly painful surgery, like incredibly painful. And it's the reason that Gypsy has severe dry mouth now. Her mother claimed she was drooling too much, got them removed, and now she has severe dry mouth, which is why she always licks her lips.
You know, Perez, I want to tell you, if you ever study Munchausen by proxy, classic, you will find it in almost every case. That child has a feeding tube. Sometimes it starts with a feeding tube, but somehow a feeding tube is introduced into that situation. And there was a doctor who suspected Munchausen by proxy and even wrote it in the files. And he has since apologized to Gypsy because he didn't act on it. And then you got to consider this. They head up to Missouri. Well, she tells, first of all, let me back up. When doctors started catching on and get suspicious, she would get pissed and go to another doctor. So then she goes up to Missouri and tells them all of Gypsy's records were destroyed in Katrina. So all they've got is her word of mouth to go on. And who's going to think a mother is sitting there saying their child has these things when they don't?
So
because
that was a lie?
Proxy's not common, you know?
The destroyed by Katrina was a lie?
Some of the records are still destroyed. Like she doesn't have them, but no, that was a lie. They in 2007, they were a lot of them were finally faxed over.
Yeah, and one doctor said that he started to question things, and Dee Dee stomped out mad and never came back.
Yeah, because he got, oh my God, this finally loaded. The freaking Facebook messages, their Facebook messages.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, finally. Okay, it's because I wanted to put this on the disk and I wanted this will save.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, Perez.
Whose messages? Sorry, whose Facebook messages?
The ones from Gypsy's, but I was going to show, okay, so, oh my God, there's 86,000 pages. Anyways, okay.
Oh, this is something new. Yes, somebody was telling me about this. These are new. These are new.
It's
if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, you correct me, Bree, because you know more than me. In these messages, there's messages where he's telling her what to say in these videos and stuff. Am I right or wrong?
No, that's in the videos, but people are watching that, Sheena. They're not comprehending. I don't understand it. I don't understand why. In the videos, he literally says in the next video, do this, but they're not watching them in the order, so they'll never understand it the way that it's meant to be understood.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. So, man, I need to say this. Okay, because I wanted to show him a home video clip. It's not long. I wanted to show you. Okay, this is Gypsy, literally at her birthday party. Okay, so her grandmother. I'm gonna make a video about this, but her grandmother died, and a lot of people in her family, Gypsy's family members, Dee Dee's closest friends, said that after Dee Dee's mom died, Dee Dee kind of spiraled out of control. Okay, so you see this birthday party at Burger King, and it's Gypsy jumping around on her legs, jumping around, running around, eating birthday cake, sugar, food, eating the food like she could. And the following year, her grandma died. And guess what? The following year after that, feeding tube. Following year after that, wheelchair. Literally. Like, and it's so sad to see when you watch these home videos, because, you know, on the documentaries, they only show these little bitty tiny clips. When I watch these in full context, it is so sad to see. Like, Gypsy, like, literally you see this video of her running around, and then you see a video of her basically almost the same age, and she's so skinny, and it's so sad. And her in a police phone call from jail with Laura, the grandma, the one that married her grandpa, she literally says that Dee Dee was starving Gypsy.
Wait. I'm having deja vu. Somebody there was some drama with the grandfather.
What about it?
It's all confusing.
Grandfather essayed both Dee Dee and Gypsy.
Right. Okay.
And people invalidate her on that too.
This was in Gypsy's book? This was in the book?
Well, yeah, no, and they mentioned it in the documentary. And let me tell you, okay, because people invalidated her of this. Let me tell you what he said when they brought it up to him in the documentary. They asked